Another edition of Clarence Williams Strengthening the Family Summit. We just had this summit on February the 3rd, and I want to do a post view of this summit because it is so important that we certainly get involved in the strengthening of the families. Families is under attack, and we definitely need to do what we can do, if possible, to keep fathers in the home, keep children motivated with self-esteem in our school system. Let them know that they have support in our families, marriages, staying together instead of dissolving the marriages and breaking up. Health problems that we face so radically in our communities and in the society in which we live. So much mental health issues that we have to deal with. And then compound all of that when you have a single person in the family that has the weight of his or her shoulders up on all, caring for all of the rest of the family. And it seems as though no one see them or no one is able to attend to their needs as they are attending to all the needs of everyone else. So we have so much to deal with, and I'm just so uh, privileged that the Church of Christ at U.S. Highway 1, that we are able to address some of these concerns. And so let's look at the post of what we just did on on February the uh, the 3rd. And I just believe that it's just so much that's needed. And I believe you know that too. You know that there's so much that is needed. I call this the call for action. The call for action. And I say that the family has been the strength of the community. I think this is a consensus view of the family, have been the strength of the family for centuries. It is through the family that the leaders learn and develop positive, passionate, caring skills for that will help them and shape their lives as they go out into the community, will shape their character. You learn all of that in the family. Through the family, both boys and girls develop into fathers and mothers that work hard, that love their families, and that become positive forces in the community or in the society in which they live. But unfortunately, for years, the framework of the family has been broken. I think that's a true statement. For so long, we have been bothered. Our communities, our neighborhoods, has been denied strong families. It just the relationship between family members has been broken, and the reasons for this decline of the family is a subject for all kinds of debates. We've talked about this for years. People have stirred this for so many times. And, to adequately address these needs of the family, one must have some understanding of this history. If it has been going on for so long, I'm pretty sure there is now a history associated with it and the ills, some of the ills of the problems that exist in the family. And although this summit is not intended to discuss these declining reasons of the family, but because we have a certain understanding about these reasoning, we want to present, and we did present this family strengthening summit. And we did it on February the 3rd, 2024. I have 23 there, but it's 2024. We just did this. And we wanted to offer well thought out and proven suggestions that we feel will assist in strengthening the family. One subject that we're not going to address is the influence of God and the church in the lives of families. Why, Brother Williams? Well, although we do know that the influence of God is vitally important uh, and is necessary if the family is going to be successful. This summit is intended to address the hunger and thirst needs of the 5,000s. What I mean by that is that if you remember in Matthew, the 14th chapter, verse number 13 through verse maybe number 21, when Jesus Christ and his disciples had these followers and they led them out into the wilderness or out into a barren land, and they were following them. And then they turned around. It was evening time and they needed to be fed. Jesus did not turn around and preach them a sermon, but he addressed the needs that they had. And that's what this summit is trying to do. We're trying to address the needs. Now, we do know that we will not adequately, totally, holistically address all the needs without the insertion of God's word into this discussion. But this summit is simply to address the needs that we see at this point that people can maybe adhere to or can accept. You know, when you get into religious matters and discussion, then sometimes you lose a lot of people. But if someone wants to just understand what it is that they can do to help their families, that's what we're striving to do. Remember at one time, Jesus Christ said to these that were following him, "You only following me for what you can get." And the scripture says many of them turned and walked with him no more. So we understand God. We understand the influence of God. And there will be a time, if so needed or so desired or accepted, that we will have the opportunity uh, to present God. But at this time, we just want to present what we see as some of the needs, and hopefully people would adhere to those particular needs. This Sister Allison Sultan she is a representative of T.S. Wharton Mortuary, and she did an excellent job in lecturing us concerning leaving a legacy. Leaving a legacy, the concept of a legacy, leaving something that will benefit the family is germane to the success of the family and can provide upward mobility to all members of the family structure. That is so important. When there's a problem, or when there's death, when there's an illness, or when there's some other unforeseen hardship, that family is going to need some help. That family is going to need some help trying to go through that and still come out where they can go on with their lives, leaving behind a legacy. Or the support of the family structure must be addressed. How many times have you seen someone that don't have any life insurance, any health insurance, don't have a will, don't have a power of attorney, and have to deal with all of those issues trying to get where they can transact the business of someone that has just passed because there is no power of attorney, or whatever that need may be, to assist that family in the transition to a stable life. And that's what we're striving to do. The legacy can be easily wasted if people are not involved, or they don't have any information, or they're not informed about how to manage money. You can leave all of the uh, life insurance policies or whatever you have in the bank, or whatever assets you may have, property or what have you. But if someone does not know how to manage that, you're really still not doing too much of a good job. Then they need to know how to save. Have some thought about that saving, thought about investing, and then just the wisdom of spending, the wisdom of spending money. And then Sister Shanatria Grubbs, she dealt with healthcare. Very interesting, very talented, very knowledgeable young lady. The need of proper health care that addresses all the needs, include mental health. It is essential to a healthy family structure. So many times we have a problem or we have a concern when you start dealing with mental health. But we all have that problem. I mean, we may not be as mentally delayed as maybe someone else, but we all go through some stuff. Sometimes you just need some help mentally. And if you get that help uh, to that particular person in that family, that will also strengthen that family. Unfortunately, those ideals cost families valuable resources and only add to delay, especially when you are denying or refuse to get the help that is needed. Some in the family, they have physical, they have mental needs that are unseen or unnoticed. And sometimes that causes, a great deal of problem also. Some family members are struggling with the needs of others and they neglect their own personal, their own physical, their own mental needs. And these hurt the whole family, especially when that person that is trying to help everyone else is in need and are not their needs are not being addressed. That can hurt the whole family. So help needs are very, very important. uh Shazetta James, she lectured on the need of medicine. We saw this during COVID, when there were so many, especially in our community, the Black community, Hispanic community, community of color, that had a problem with vaccination. They had all kinds of concept, and history tells us to be mindful of that now. So I'm not minimizing that. But Sister James was stressing the need of getting the vaccines, the COVID vaccines. She even mentioned getting the flu vaccines. And she's saying that, yes, it is not going to cure all, but we had this same problem with polio, and we had the same problem with measles and all of this. But these things are now in the past, and now we have this new thing, and we're going through this same thing again. So we need to get vaccinated. So much of the illness that is existing in the Black community is due to the lack of proper medical care. Hurting in plain sight when the care giver needs caring are two subjects that is often overlooked. You overlook because maybe you don't see it. Let's give some reasons. Why do you think? Maybe it's because we see our needs, but we don't see the needs of others. That may be the reason. Maybe it's because we are not strong enough to help others. When you are hurting yourself, uh, it's hard for you to turn around and ignore that hurt and and help someone else. But this person that is vital to the success of this family has been carrying that load for so long, to the neglect of their own needs. That they are that person that know they need help, but they push their needs, their concerns to the side so that they can help someone else. Maybe you are not that person. Maybe you're just that person that's not strong enough to help someone else. And then that person that is strong, that is helping, their needs are going unmeasured. Maybe helping will cost more than you're willing to give. That can be an issue, you know. And then maybe we allow others to care, but we just don't care ourselves. That may be an issue also. And then Sister Benita Anthony, she lectured on bridging the gap. Very, very sound lecture on bridging the gap between the parent and the child. This is so needed in any family. How do you talk to your children? How do you sit them down and get them to understand where you coming from? How do they get you to understand where they are coming from? It's just a communication gap that we face all the time, and we have to be able to deal with that if you're going to strengthen that family. I just believe that everyone in that family should be operating and working on the same citadel. They should be going in one direction. And that direction should be whatever it takes for the success of that family. Everyone should be involved in that. We often look at parents' role in nurturing and guiding the guidance of a family. But when there is a divide between the parent and the child, who will nurture, who will guide the child, and who will foster the role of the parent? Mother is arguing, daddy is arguing, children are arguing, no one is listening. Someone needs to step back and listen. The world has an answer to all these relevant questions, and we must address that power. Now, we do know that God has an answer. We do know that God has an answer because there is something that is uniquely qualified in God's word that addresses the family. We said uh, mothers and fathers are so different. Yeah, and that difference is not a negative; it's a positive. And God has placed both in that home for the guidance of the family. Remember what Ephesians said? Ephesians said that fathers need to not provoke children to wrath. Ephesians 6, verse number 4. Uh, don't provoke your children to wrath, but bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. You can't really do that if you're not communicating. If you don't have that ability to sit down and communicate, you're not going to have a good understanding of your child. Child is not going to have a good understanding of you. You're not going to be able to cooperate. You're not going to have a wholesome relationship in that family as a whole. So we have to get involved in that. Sister Demetria lectured with the school system. When that child is born, and then you introduce that child to a structured environment in education, whether it's kindergarten, whether it is daycare, whether it is the school system, whatever it is, Sister Demetria said you need to be involved. And you need to understand the importance of your involvement in the system in which you have put that child in, because that child needs your help, and that child need to see mommy, need to see daddy involved in it. Sister Adzelin did not, we didn't have time for Sister Adzelin nor myself on the third to address our concerns, but she had marriages. A divide of families can lead to further frictions within the family structure. Marriages can be affected to the point of divorcement. And we see that in so many uh, communities and so many families. just getting a divorce or just simply leaving, separating. Now, First Corinthians 7 gives you that separation, but it also says come back together. And sometimes when that separation happens, we don't do this next part of that. We don't come back together. Children behavior is affected when there's a dysfunction in the family. Low self-esteem when there is a dysfunction in the family. Failing school grades are affected. Communication gaps, what Bernita was talking about. Financial concerns also can be affected when there is a family dysfunction that is happening in that home. And so we also have to deal with the makeup, the makeup of the family. Families are so the structured family now is so different than when we were coming up. You know, the traditional marriages, man and woman. Uh, you don't have that as the only makeup now of the family. You have so many other makeups of the family that impact not only the mother and the father, but it also impact the children. We put children in any situation as though they are able to deal with it, but then we say that they are minors. Well, if they are minors, if they are not mature, you have to be concerned about where and which type of relationship you put them in. I think that has to be a concern. It has to be addressed if you're going to be successful in the family. And then we also have the mixed marriages. We have the mixed marriages. We have marriages of woman and woman, men and men. You have all kinds of marriage, and then you have marriages that comes what I would call blended marriages. Now the mixed marriages, you put children in all type of relationships like that. Child is totally confused. For years, they have understood that it is a relationship, a marriage is a relationship between a man and a woman. And now they are being put into a relationship where there's a man and a man or a woman and a woman. They go to school and they see their peers in school having girlfriends, and that a lady having a girlfriend, their young man having a boyfriend. It's all kinds of stuff. Their minds are just being blown now. Now they have gotten to this 21st century where pretty much anything and everything is accepted. It's acceptable now. But uh, uh, it also causes problems. I remember when we had this desegregation. You know, at one time, our families and our school systems were, do what the teachers say do. Principals call you in the office and spank you, and then take you home, and you call your mother to the school, call your father to the school, and then they would chastise you right there. You can't do that now. You can't do that now. And mothers and fathers need help right now with children, but they don't want no one else to discipline. They need help, but not you. No one else can do it but them. And then they say they are not, you know, uh, able to do it. So the child is just out there. And, the laws has been so changed that you really can't do what you should be doing with a child, in my opinion, without someone calling 911. We have to deal with everything that's happening right now. If we have to deal with it, can you imagine what the child has to deal with as well? And then you're putting that child into all types of marital relationship, totally confused, blended relationship, uh, uh, father-in-law now, mama-in-law, bringing other children into the relationship. And then now one mother uh, is showing favoritism towards the other her children and not your children. It's just so much that we have to deal with. And if we have to deal with it, then naturally our children has to deal with it as well. And so there's a problem. The question is, how do you stem the tide of divorce? How do you get that resolved? How do you get that? How do you keep a father in the home? What I've dealt with. How do you keep the father in the home? How do you keep the mother in the home? And not only in the home, but dealing with his or her responsibilities in the home. How do you do that? One of the societal greatest problems is the absence of fathers in the home. Although mothers have and are managing and maintaining the vital role in the home, the need of a father is seen in the unrest of our world. I can't say that it's because uh, everything is due because the father is not in the home. I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to make that statement. I'm going to say that the number one of the main reasons is that God is not in that home. I'm going to inject that. And if God see that there is a need for father and mother in that home, then I just believe that child would benefit by father and mother being in that home. The world has a different view of a family that is totally opposite of God's view. And somewhere down the line, we have to inject God back into that home. We must encourage fathers to participate in the family and promote their importance in as the head of the family. Now, we hear so much discussions about the head of the father in the home. Well, I'm not talking about a dictator. I'm talking about a father. And even right now, we have to always emphasize that because anytime you start talking about someone being the head, people get the concept of dictator. But the Bible is not talking about a dictator. He's talking about someone to guide, someone to direct, someone to steer, someone to help make decisions in that home. Be that person that can be there to make sure that everybody is doing what they should do, and that person should be doing what he should be doing. In the 21st century, we can't lose sight of the need for fathers in the home, fathers' value, family responsibility, and the most of all, family dependency on God. We have to stress that regardless of what we may want to happen in the home, dependency on God has to be paramount. And so I call upon all of you that are concerned to help with the strengthening of the family, to get involved, do what you can do. You know, there's so many people that are on Facebook. We are online. We issue our suggestions and our comments and things. I'm hoping that you can also add this to your discussion as well. Add strengthening the family. You have a wealth of information. You have a wealth of knowledge, you know, and I believe that uh, you can use your talent, you can use your experience to help with this. You know, I'm not saying stop all the other things that you're doing. I'm saying this also should be an addition to help with the strengthening of the family in the home. It just may be that you have that proper word to give or that proper influence that someone will listen and say, you know, he's right or she's right. That would help uh, in the home. And so we dealt with fathers, we need you. We dealt with hurting in plain sight. when the caregiver needs care, marriages, health care, school system, and leaving a legacy. Those are the things that we dealt with, and these are uh, the presenters, the facilitators that we employed to do this this summit, and they did a magnificent job. It was well attended. We had a lot of literature to pass out. We had a booklet that we presented and put together. And if you are in Jacksonville, especially if you are a member of the Church of Christ, U.S. Highway 1, we need you to get involved. We need your presence in the assembly. We need your presence in our workshops, in our meetings, when we are discussing different things that we are going to do, because the strengthening of family is not a one-time thing. Right now, we are preparing for our Black History. And then in March, we are going to be doing our literacy, because so many children just don't know how to read, or they're not reading at the level that they should be reading at. So we're going to do a whole lot of that in our Black History. We are incorporating literacy in that, where we're actually going to be reading stories about these Black history inventors and people that always come up in when you start talking about Black history people. We're going to be reading about them. In fact, the committee is going to be putting props and asking people to dress up as these particular people. It's going to be fun. Going to be fun. And all of this is getting people involved. We want our parents to start taking the children's to arts and crafts functions, take them to museums, expose them to other things other than taking them somewhere to play. You never know what your child can do until you expose that child to doing all of these other things. And so I'm hoping and trusting that you would get involved, whatever it may be, whatever you think you can do. Please get involved. And I think that will help us so very, very much. Again, I thank you so much. I just hope that this has been an overview of the things that we have done in our Family Strengthening Summit. And I'm hoping, trusting, and praying that you will continue to follow us, continue to subscribe to our YouTube site. It is at Clarence Williams 3930. Just subscribe to that, and then certainly you will be abreast to all of the things and all of the videos, and you would be notified when we are putting forth another video, whatever it may be. It may be a worship service of the church. It may be a Bible study. It may be this type of form here. And then I also do Now and Then, which is a political arm that I love to do. And then also we are doing the trip that we did over in Europe. So there's so much that we are involved in. I'm hope, trusting, pray you would help us. You would get involved with it as well. Again, I thank you so much for attending. Thank you for viewing. Let us work together, and may God get the glory and get the honor. Good night.